The views, comments, stories, and opinions shared within this podcast are our own, or those of our guests, and in no way represent the views of the companies, associations, or organizations that any of us may work for or represent. All stories, events, and tales shared within this episode may or may not have happened in the manner in which they were told. They may or may not have even happened at all. The details have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty alike. This is Squawk Ident. You're listening to Squawk Ident, an aviation podcast that explores the many pathways to an aviation profession, the challenges that a professional aviator can expect in today's marketplace, and we share many stories along the way. I'm your host, Aviator Tony, a professional airline pilot, currently flying for a U.S. legacy airline with over 20 years on the flight line. This is Flight 145 of the Squawk Ident Podcast in our 6th season. Recorded on the 22nd of May, 2024 from the Aviator Sound Studios from somewhere in Southern California. For now. On today's flight, Rob, Terry, and I discuss what we've been up to over the last few months and why the Squawk Ident Podcast has been sitting in the hangar. No, it wasn't a total engine breakdown, but definitely maintenance is involved. We also discuss the unexpected emergencies and maintenance delays that can happen out on the flight line, the importance of a good walk-around, and reserve rule enhancements. We also are going to explore a topic that is very personal to many of us out there on the line, and that's something called A.I.D.S. No, not the one you're thinking of, probably. I'm talking about Aviation Induced Divorce Syndrome. So stick with us as we discuss all this and more on this, the 145th episode of the Squawk Ident Podcast. Before we start the show today, I'd like to thank Max Friend for joining us on episode 144, When the Music Stops. We enjoyed discussing the earnings reports and how it indicates career trajectories. Yes, I did pay attention, Max, and I did see the first quarter report was a far different story in terms of profits and loss around the entire industry. So thank you for your input. We did appreciate having you on the show. Joining us today is a superb aviator and Squawk Ident podcast co-host. He is a former international professional racquetball champion, a member of the 9G Club, an A&P and avionics tech, an RC aircraft commander, a boat skipper, commercial drone operator, and currently an Airbus captain for Legacy Airlines. The name we use here on the show is an alias to our employer, a U.S. mainline carrier. Joining us from his home studio, where he is waiting for the hail and tornadoes to hit Central Texas. Oh no!
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Help us in welcoming our very own Captain Rob B. Rob, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right now. It's been a very busy couple months, and just happy to be back in the saddle again and in front of the camera and microphone doing a podcast with you. It's been quite a while since I've done this.
It's been too long. It's been 3 months, and we're going to talk about the hiatus here in the show today. I'm so happy to have you join us today. And speaking of people joining us today, I'm also very privileged to have someone join us who hasn't been on the show since back in December of 2023. First time back on the show in this year. It only took you 5 months, bro. Joining us is a superb aviator and Squawk Ident podcast co-host. He's a retired U.S. Army colonel and former Black Hawk Battalion commander. His journey has led him to operate Apaches, Black Hawks, C-12s, UC-35s, and he has a master's degree in management and strategic studies. He's a former Embraer 145 and a Boeing 737 pilot, and he's currently a 7576 pilot for Transglobal. The name we use here on the show is an alias to his employer, a U.S. mainline carrier. Joining us from his home studio, where he should be getting ready to pack for a Dublin trip that leaves in about 9 hours' time. Wow. You better have a Guinness for me. Joining us from somewhere in Northern Virginia, help us in welcoming our very own Terry S. Terry, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. It's good to be back. It's been a while. I think we've tried a couple of times to put this together and schedule conflicts or
life,
other stuff going on. Life.
Lots of life.
just haven't been able to make it. So it's good to be back. I am going to Dublin tonight. I get to ride in the back, which is, hey, it's great. I get to sleep I get what do we call it? Dozing for dollars. So I get to sleep the whole way there. So not a bad gig.
Yeah, not at all. Well, pleasure having you back on the show. Thank you so much for and all your attempts of coming on the previous, but every time it's like, oh no, I'm leaving for a trip in the morning, or I'm in the middle of a trip, or I'm taking care of family time and vacation, and I mean we all are really busy, and I think that's something that I have really grown to appreciate is when I was younger and at a regional airline and in my 20s and 30s and enjoying every trip and every layover and every opportunity to go out and explore the cities that we were laying over in, cities sometimes that I've never heard of. It was an adventure, but now we're going into the big cities, big hubs for the most part, and you can adventure out, but it's not as easy to do. It's not like, the town is 4 blocks by 5 blocks and it's a college town and there's plenty to do. Just walk down the street. You don't need, but when you're in a big city like Philadelphia, Charlotte, Dallas, Washington, D.C., New York, not so much, but I mean, there's these big cities where you're in a hotel somewhere off in the boonies because that's where the cheaper hotels are. And it's like, what are you going to explore? The Buckeyes down the street? Or, I mean,
yeah.
So that is the reality. And as we get older, we have more responsibilities and more stokes in the fire, I guess would be a good analogy for it. But so it's not that we slam click. It's just that we have more going on. And as we get older and our layovers get shorter and shorter and our flying gets longer and longer, and we're dealing with more and more things.
The recovery time isn't there.
Yeah. And not just the recovery time isn't there. It takes you longer as you age to recover. So it's like, hey, let's go out, have a couple beers. Nah, I think I'm just going to have some chamomile tea and put on my fuzzy slippers that I pack with me.
You pack fuzzy slippers with you?
That too
You
personal?
have fuzzy slippers?
Fuzzy.
Okay.
They were complimentary. Shut up.
I mean fuzzy pants, maybe like pajama pants, but fuzzy slippers.
My little
I don't know
Captain
about
Roger
that.
Victor fuzzy slippers. Hey, marketing idea, Captain Roger Victor. So we've all kind of felt this, but today we're going to catch up. We're going to hopefully get back on an okay schedule. Things aren't going to ramp up here at Squawk Ident for a little while. We'll talk about that, but we've all been busy. And I'm just so happy to be back on the air. And I will make more of an effort now that things are starting to slow down a little bit here. At least I can see it on the horizon for me. Uh-oh. I got a trip. The robocall has come through.
This is APA pilot notifying you that you have a new sequence added to your schedule on May 23 at 10:30. Again, this is APA pilot notifying you that you have a new sequence added to your schedule on May 23 at 10:30. Goodbye.
Have you had to drive to LA for most of your trips?
Yeah, I have done a lot of Santa Ana flying since they really reduced the 737 flying out of Santa Ana. But yeah, I proffer for Ontario flying as much as I can. I'd rather take a trip that's less desirable out of Ontario because it's a 15-minute drive for me. Versus LAX, which is a minimum of an hour and 30 minutes without much traffic. If it's during traffic time, I got to give myself 2 hours and 30 minutes. And then I have to give myself time to get from the employee lot onto a bus that comes every 15 minutes to take me to the terminal. And then that bus, the time that bus ride is going to go for is dependent on how much air traffic is on the airport, because the bus roads go in between two taxiways. So anytime there's an airplane, they have to stop, give way to the aircraft. And if there's 2 or 3 heavies taxiing, you might sit there at an intersection for 15 minutes waiting for the roadway to clear. So, I have to give myself a little extra time for that. I usually give myself 30 minutes minimum. So you're talking like 3 hours before a trip. I
You're
got
starting
my number one choice for tomorrow, by the way.
Huh?
LAX 10:30
Nice.
departure. I fly to JFK. It's a 5 hour and 36-minute flight. Land at JFK at 1900. And then I deadhead back the next morning. First
Why not
class,
deadhead that
baby.
night? Do they have anything coming back that night?
I'd have to look into it, but it wouldn't be first class.
Hell yeah, you A1 yourself.
You can wait. See, I don't know these things. So if I A1 myself back, even though I can do that, and do I have to call for no show? Nope. So I can A1 myself, but I wouldn't be guaranteed to first class.
Just check in.
As long as there's a seat available and I check in, though. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I might have to do that, sir.
Yeah.
But on with the show. See, this is what we deal with.
Wait. You guys get first class deadheads now?
Yeah.
If
Is that a
the
new
seat's
thing?
available.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to the top of the first class list. We go ahead of all
Revenue.
the executive platinums and revenue passengers.
I
that
seem
are
to remember a
asking for an upgrade.
podcast. I seem to remember a podcast maybe a year or so ago where you guys were like, "You get first class deadheads."
I know. That's why we got it, because of you
That's
guys.
it. Yeah, man.
Isn't it
It's been a
great?
game changer. It's been a game changer.
But Rob, you've been exceptionally busy as well, because your youngest is graduating, today or tomorrow from high school, and that means the volleyball tournaments and the graduations and all that stuff are coming to an end.
Yeah, and end of one chapter and on to the next. I mean, it is happening way faster than I ever imagined it. In the blink of an eye, your baby girl is all grown up and graduating high school and off to college. And so it's been pretty I'm not gonna lie, been a little emotional. It's just something that I've been fully involved in and engaged in for the last few years, which has been awesome because raising a little girl in today's world is can be challenging. And so been able to share all those life experiences with her, and now it's like, well, she'll be flying the coop, and and me and mama are going to be looking at each other across the table, be like, who are you and what'd you do with my wife?
Well, if I can give you any advice, sir, date nights are very popular, and don't forget
Oh,
the
yeah.
little things like the
Oh, we
cards
just-
and the flowers and the occasional text messages randomly
Yeah.
saying,
That's good advice.
happy
I'm
for you.
really bad at that, to be honest with you. I'm more of a service oriented kind of a spouse. I like to make sure the house is in order, the cars, and everything like that. When it comes to like cards and flowers, you can ask my wife. She's like, man, you suck at that. I mean, I'm bad, but it's been a work in progress for the last, I guess we've been married 20, holy moly, put me on the spot, 23 years. So
Yeah, well,
I
happy anniversary. That was recent, wasn't it?
well, yeah, actually that was in March.
Yeah.
And then my wife just had a birthday
Mhm.
last week, and I'm gonna have a birthday here in a couple days
Yeah.
myself. So
Yeah.
we're getting older.
Yeah.
Life's moving on, man. You gotta try to just keep up here. I'm hanging on to the static wicks, so to speak, on this ride.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah, the aircraft is way ahead of me right now. So
Yeah.
in life, so we're just trying to right. Yeah, my daughter actually just texted me that she just walked out of class. It was her last day, high school.
Ah,
So,
so,
yeah,
Yep. So there's
so
your.
that's happening.
It's
That's
happening,
awesome.
and now and
Yeah.
she's going to be going to college on a volleyball scholarship.
Well,
correct?
we pivoted on that. So
Oh, you did?
that was definitely the trajectory for a while. We were looking at schools um for her to play volleyball at, but it just didn't work out, man. Sometimes some of the things you want aren't what God has planned for you. So kind of have to go in the direction that he had planned, and it wasn't volleyball in college.
Oh.
So she's going to end up going to Texas Tech, which we're really happy about.
Oh, nice.
Because it's in state, and so the tuition's a lot lower than than some of the out of state schools, and it's a really good school. I mean, the program, she's going to be getting into interior design,
Oh, cool.
and so it's a really, really good program. It's actually under the human sciences
Mhm.
degree out there. So it's a really awesome program. And as you can imagine, the school is just awesome. Patrick Mahomes is one of probably the more high profile, at least athletes to go through
Mhm.
that school. And yeah, we're fired up, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So you're gonna
Can't
have.
wait to go to some football games.
Oh, there you go. And you're gonna
Nice.
have your
Yeah.
baby close to home, and that's really
Yeah,
important.
5-hour drive. It's literally one highway
Yep.
from, once you get a couple roads out of town here, it's one highway from here to Lubbock, where Texas Tech is. So
5
and then
hours, man. I drive
5
5
hours.
hours and I've crossed 4 states.
No, in
it's
Texas, you
5
only-
hours at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But also the good thing is there's a lot of her friends and former Flower Mound students go to Texas Tech. So, on those 3-day weekends or holidays,
Yeah.
you can see it's a mass exodus from the college, and they're all headed to the same spot. So, there's a lot of carpooling going on. So we plan
Oh,
to,
cool.
make sure that happens too. So
Well, congratulations to your
pretty neat.
youngest, and
Yeah.
Well,
we
thank
wish
you.
her well,
Appreciate it.
and so yeah, thank you for catching us up on what you've been experiencing and going through your journey of life with your family. But
Thank you.
it doesn't. That's not all you've been up to. You've had some flying going on. We all have over at Legacy Airlines.
Well, yeah, sprinkled in between all that home life stuff, there's been actually work going on. I am on reserve, and this schedule, I guess this summer schedule, I'm not quite sure if we're actually in the summer schedule right now, but it's been pretty hectic. A lot of high tempo, a lot of flying. It seems like I'm getting used quite a bit. I do get a couple of days here and there that are off, even though I'm scheduled to be on call. But for the most part, I'm out there flying the line at least 3 or 4 out of the 5 days that I'm scheduled to work. So yeah, I've been traveling around. I was in LA the other day, Tony. I had a long layover there, but that was probably one of the very many trips that fell apart on me en route. So I ended up spending the night in LA unexpectedly. But yeah, LA, I've been Indianapolis, been down to Key West. I was just in Mexico yesterday, Guadalajara.
Nice. A lot of south of the border flying.
Yeah, a little south of the border. Yep, San Jose, Del Cabo, Mexico City.
Yeah,
Monterey. Man, I'm doing it all down south.
Yeah,
and then I actually got the ferry, a maintenance ferry, a couple days ago too, to Charlotte, from Tulsa to Charlotte.
Nice.
At 2:00 in the morning of all times, but yeah, we did it.
Was it an
fun.
empty flight? Just you and the FO, or?
Yeah, it's just me and the FO. Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't even wear uniforms, man. I just, I wore my uniform pants and just a collared shirt, and deadheaded up to Tulsa. Got a ride to the maintenance hangar.
Really?
Hopped on the airplane, did the pre-flight, took off at about midnight, and landed in Charlotte at about, it was close to 2:00 in the morning, 2:30.
Nice.
And then got in the hotel van, went to the hotel, went to sleep, and then woke up 10 hours later for deadhead back to Dallas, and that was it.
That is cool.
So,
I didn't even know
that's pretty neat.
you could do that. That's pretty cool. Speaking of uniforms, I know that the Legacy Airlines uniforms is a point of contention. We have many options now through our uniform supplier, and a lot of pieces, like people will buy a pair of pants, and then they'll buy the sport coat or whatever it is, the blazer that matches it, right? Now, the new blazer that they have, I bought one when I upgraded instead of just putting the stripe on my FO jacket, because my FO jacket became too small now that I've been hitting the gym with some frequency. I have grown a couple inches in the chest, and
Yeah.
which I'm very proud of the fact that I'm working out. I even showed you guys pictures. I bought a rack for my garage. I got a little bit of a home gym going on right now temporarily because, why not? And so I bought a new jacket a little bit bigger, but the way it fits, the button is so low. It's basically like over your belly button. It's like, what the heck? Who designed this jacket? I mean, and
Oh,
so we're not happy with it as a group, and there's a lot of emails going back and forth with the union and the uniform committee. The other issue is because they have so many different types of fabrics and so many different styles, and most people wash their pants. They don't dry clean them because that would be pretty expensive if you got to dry clean a pair of pants every single week. So
Yeah.
most people just wash them, and what happens is the color on those pants fade because they're not very high quality. So then you have both the textures might be different and the color of the pants might not match the color of the blazer. So we look sloppy.
yeah.
And there's no other way to do it. You look sloppy. Personally, I buy a pair of pants at least once a year,
Yeah. me too.
sometimes twice a year, and they're not cheap.
You wear them so much.
Yeah,
They're like $70-$80 or something like that.
yeah.
aren't
They have a sale going on this last
and
weekend,
then you
and
get them hemmed up, and then it's an extra
you're looking at $100
$15-$20
for a pair of
Yeah.
pants. That granted, you're living in those pants
Yeah.
every day, and you try to wash them as often as you can, but it's just sloppy. It's just sloppy.
Yeah.
I actually think we should do a whole uniform overhaul, but yeah, it's one of those things where I changed something recently. For the last 20 years, I've been wearing dress shoes, and I buy 2 pair a year. Even though they still look good, I buy 2 pair a year because I want the support, with the sole and everything inside. And a common issue at least on the Airbus is that your feet and ankles get very cold. And because the pants are not very flexible, the fabric is what it is. You want them, they're dress slacks basically. So they have to sit a certain way when you're standing, right? So you don't want them to be too long. You don't want them to be too short. But when you're sitting down, the pant leg goes up, right? So it exposes. So most of us wear pretty long socks because, again, when you're at altitude, your feet get cold. And I've seen more and more of my friends transition to boots. And I always thought, well, that must be a Texas thing because, you got to wear your boots. You're under your uniform. And I know that all chief pilots don't like the look, but we're a Texas company. So there's nothing in the contract or in the uniform language that says we can't wear black boots. So I bought a pair of boots, black ones.
Nice.
And you know what?
Flight boots.
Yeah, well, they're very I guess not. They're not fancy in any way, shape, or form. They're just some Cody James boots. But it took me like a week or two to break them in at the house. But
break them in.
Yeah. My feet kind of were like, whoa, what's going on here? But now I'm like, this is great because I can get a little bit longer pant. They don't ride up my ankles, and my feet are warm and toasty. And even walking in them is not a problem. So I'm starting to become a little more Texas and a little less California, buddy.
That's funny.
I'm gonna leave this right here. The Boeing 757 has foot heaters.
What?
You are kidding me. Foot heaters?
It's so
that's what happens when you have inadequate heating in the rest of the compartment. So
so just heat up your feet so you don't feel it.
Yeah, there's a couple of switches on the side. That one is for shoulder heat, which it kind of blows air up along the windows because the windows get cold, right? The side windows get cold, so it kind of blows a little bit of warm air. It's not hot air. It's not like superheated or anything. It's just a little bit of warm air. And then there's also one that blows down underneath as well. So, yeah, we have foot and shoulder heaters.
Oh my gosh! No, on the Airbus, there's 2 temperatures in the flight deck. If it's above 70 degrees outside, it's going to be 100 in the cockpit if you don't have preconditioned air or the packs running. So you turn the packs on and most people go, oh, it's hot up here. So they turn it to as cold as possible. And if you turn it to full cold, they'll like freeze over. And just like an air conditioner, if it's, it freezes over and then, you get icicles, but it's not really cooling. So, it's a balance of where usually like the 10:30, 11 o'clock position on the knob for the forward pack controller is usually pretty good. And the cockpit can get down to about 74 or 72 degrees, which is still relatively warm. But then you go and put your coffee, because as soon as you board, you give your briefing to your flight attendants and you talk about, the duration of the flight, the turbulence, any ELs, and, how you like to operate security and all that kind of stuff. And then, like, can I get you anything? Sure. Mind if I get a cup of coffee and one cream? Thanks. Appreciate it. So he or she will come with the coffee. And you put it in a cup holder, and you're like, while I'm doing my pre-flight and setting up the FMGC, I can, take a sip of the coffee and put it back, and I'll put it right there, and it's right on the side view window or DV window from the
windowsill,
the windowsill. And the only thing that fits in there is a styrofoam style.
That's it.
Paper cup, whatever it is,
or a can of Coke,
or a can of Coke. Those are the only two items that fit in there. Like
That's
any coffee mug or thermos,
water bottle, no.
Although I did have a thermos, a stainless steel thermos that fit. For a while, but then I lost the cap, and so there went that. So one of these days I'm going to patent that. But the problem is that cold air that's coming out is aimed right on top of your coffee. So you set it down, and you take the first sip of coffee, and you're like, it's freaking hot, it's burning my lips. So you put it down, you go and you write the flight number on the piece of paper that you're going to use for your notes. Then you come back to get that second sip because maybe it's cooled down, and now it's ice cold.
Yeah.
Now you got a full coffee that's like ice cold because all this cold air is like being in the refrigerator. So, foot heaters and shoulder heaters. Oh my God. So thank you.
That's cool.
But, speaking of, Rob, you also had a few delays. You said you found a fuel leak how did that transpire?
I did. Yeah. So, we started off a 3-day trip, and the first leg was DFW to Key West, and the FO did the walk around in DFW. And when we got to Key West, I did the captain walk around in the fair weather, 90-degree sunny state of sunny South Florida. I was like, I got the walk around. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and load up the FMS. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, no problem. I got it. So went out and did the walk around. And as I came from the around the tail aft side of the aircraft, up the left-hand side of the airplane, I was looking, forward towards the front of the airplane, and underneath the left wing, where the inside of the main landing gear and the fuselage is, there's like a fairing there, and that's also where the two fuel pumps are located.
Yep.
And I looked at it. And the plane was already sweating like crazy, because of all the humidity and everything, and the, cold soap fuel kind of thing. So anyways, there was a lot of condensation on the underside of the wing. So there's a lot of, moisture just dripping off the airplane. But there was a bolt that holds the fuel pump that was just sticking out, like
the fuel pump cover,
an inch from the thing, from the on the underside of the wing. So it caught my attention. So I went there and I looked at it, and I'm like, well, that's obviously not secure. Let me put my glasses on. I can't see. Yes, sir. That's it. Yep. And so one of those bolts, it was like I think it was the aft corner one, was sticking out about that much. So I, jumped up and I just tried to touch it because it's a little higher than it was a little out of my reach. So I did a little jump. I touched it, and the bolt fell out.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, wow, there was no more threads left in that thing,
Yeah.
It just fell out. So when I picked up the bolt, it smelled like fuel.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's not supposed to be fuel behind these things. I mean, it's obviously a fuel pump, but there's not supposed to have any kind of fuel leak, because that is just an access panel to the fuel pump. So anyway, we had to call maintenance. Maintenance came out, and so they had to do all these tests and everything, and it was contract maintenance too. So they're not, Airbus per se or Boeing certified
right
technicians. They're just regular normal. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, they're just not company
I don't work on
technicians.
these
So,
big jumbo jets very often, buddy.
yeah. I mean, he was definitely a very skilled and knowledgeable A&P guy, but there was still some things that he just wasn't privy to because he doesn't work on the airplanes all the time. So anyway, he was working through MOC, maintenance operation control, under their direction to troubleshoot the issue. So they had him like turn on the fuel pumps and pressurize the tanks to see where the fuel is coming from. And with all that condensation and everything going on, even if he dried it with like towels and everything, the moisture would just, rebuild back up because there's just so much moisture in the air.
Yeah.
So it literally took him about 5 hours to, to come nail down that, hey, there is nothing wrong with there is no fuel leak, which I don't know why there wasn't one. I mean, you could smell it and you can,
Right.
see it on the bolt. But not only that, but then the reason why the bolt was coming out was because the threads were stripped inside the actual fuel pump itself. So now the next challenge was, well, now this can't just be MEL'd.
Right.
So now they have to go through engineering, Airbus engineering, to find out what the proper, temporary, an acceptable temporary fix would be for the situation, which that's what turned into like 2 hours because
Right.
it was a Saturday or a Sunday. Sorry, my dog's going to start barking here. So it was a Saturday. Yeah, it was a Saturday. Not too many, Airbus engineers are working on a Saturday, I guess. So
Right.
took a little while to get the approval, and basically he torqued it down as much as he could, speed tape over it, and then we were able to go and
Put some tape on
bring
it.
the airplane to Charlotte. Yeah, speed tape.
Let's put some tape on it.
So anyway,
wrenches and
that
speed
was
tape.
Yeah.
that's one of those things that it just happens. The plane had a mechanical issue, and we had to take care of it, especially because there was fuel spilling out of there. That could have leaked onto a hot brake.
Yeah.
It could have turned into quite a fiasco.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Delta recently had a nose gear fire. I forget where that was. Atlanta, I think. But
yeah, I saw that. It was in the electrical receptor.
yeah. So it's an electrical fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite exciting.
Yeah. And I heard about the panic. I mean, we're not going to talk about that today because there are plenty of other shows that are going to do an analysis on that. APG. So I'm sure Captain Jeff and the crew over there, Captain Rick and all of them are going to probably do a good job of explaining exactly what happened from what we know. But yeah, that was an interesting. I saw that all over the interwebs on the anti-social media, and yeah, I thought that was interesting. Curious to see what could cause that, because you would never think that like, because you're like, what? There's no fuel. Like what's there? Is the nitrogen charge on the strut? Maybe, I don't know. That shouldn't be flammable. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
well, it happened right where the plug was. I mean, that was where the fire was. I mean,
so arcing.
It was in front of the So
and there's a lot of grease up
and I
there
was
and
thinking,
dirt, so that could have caught fire and
it could have been just a lot of amps hitting stuff that it shouldn't, got hot and cause a fire until somebody tripped the breaker, which didn't seem like anybody. It didn't seem like it did. It just kept going. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting to watch.
Yep.
And they evacuated the plane.
Yeah, nobody got
on the slot.
Nobody got really
slides.
hurt. So
yep.
That was an interesting thing. Maybe we'll look into that and see what we can pull from there. But it happens, and it can. And you know what that reminded me of, and I wanted to talk about it maybe in a future show, is you never know, as an aviator, as even a first officer or a flight attendant, not just captains, but you never know when you're going to have to rely on all your training and egress the aircraft in a heartbeat, right when you least expect it. So, oh my, you just got handed Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, dude, it's lunchtime over here.
Brother. Brother, that's awesome. So Terry, let's catch up with you. It's been a while since you've been on the show, and then we kind of were on the pre-show. We were talking about what you've been up to, and not unlike Rob, basically life.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. Like we were talking about earlier. It's been I haven't been on the show since December, so January was busy. We had some family things, kids getting sick and deaths in the family, and just life. You know,
Yeah.
but I guess the good part about that was I didn't work all that much in January. I think I flew 2 domestic trips. One of those was a San Diego turn,
Ooh.
like a day turn from DC to
DCA.
San Diego and back. Yeah, we went out augmented. That's the only way we could do it. So there were 3 of us.
Ew, I had to work it.
Yeah, that was a long day. And then just a couple of trips in February, but they turned out to be some of the more lucrative months I've had at the company just because some of the new contract rules went into effect. And some of the things that the company has been doing to I guess maximize productivity by taking advantage of loopholes. Well, some of those loopholes have gotten closed, or at least uh, if the company decides they want to utilize those, they have to pay a little more money. So
Mhm.
things like a long duty day, I think anything over 12 hours duty day, unaugmented, pays more money.
Oh wow.
Long sit pay, so anything over 2 hours. If you're sitting at an airport for more than 2 hours between flights, there's money involved.
Yeah, sit time pay we call it.
Um, and then our short calls. If you're on short call and you don't get used, that's another hour of pay there. So a lot of things that have gone into making the contract better. And really, I think the idea was that, hey, if we make the company think twice about doing X because now they have to pay us more money, maybe they'll stop doing X. And it just recently came out a day or so or a week or so ago. Companies like, well, it's costing us a lot of money to have these long sits and to have these long duty days. So we're going to try to optimize our scheduling to not have those anymore. Well, yeah,
Yeah, no
of course. That was the point. So it worked as intended, right?
Yeah.
So um March and April I managed to get lines. And that was nice having a schedule for a bit. Went to Europe a couple of times, went to South America a couple of times, down to Sao Paulo.
Nice.
Um yeah, and those 2 months didn't pay as well. But
Yeah.
it's just how it is. Guys have figured out that they can start making more money on reserve. So a lot of senior guys are bidding reserve,
Mm.
and especially in our fleet, which we don't have a very high line. They call it LPA, line production average. Um, I think ours is somewhere around, for this fleet and this base, somewhere around 72 hours.
Oh wow. So
So
pretty
it's
close to the
pretty
minimum.
low.
Yeah.
Right, right. Reserve guarantee is 73. So if you're on reserve, you're already making more, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it as far as flying life goes. Went to a couple new places, made it to Munich finally, and Edinburgh, Scotland, and
Nice.
yeah, did a CQMV at the end of last month, so got to go do some recurrent training.
Yeah.
And then of course, that's the airline side. The family side, everybody's been doing well here. Just kids are in school. They're still young. They're still in elementary school, so nothing too crazy there. But the youngest has been playing soccer, and so we've been doing a little bit of that. And then just trying to spend time with the family and hang out and enjoy the time now that, I spent a lot of years in the Army not having that family time. So it's nice to be able to have it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, take full advantage while you can, because soon they're going to be, like my daughter's
They're going to
age or
hate me.
Rob's age, and they're going to be like, shut up, Dad. Leave me alone. Go buy me a car.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So take, Dad,
They won't talk to you unless they're hungry or they need money.
where's my allowance? Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Well, speaking of QT or continuing qualification or continuing training or qualification training, I have that coming up at the end of the month. On the 31st, I'll be in Phoenix because that's where they send us now. If you're a West Coast based or domiciled pilot, they send you to Phoenix for their training. So I'll be doing that, and they've changed it up this year. So it's like a day and a bit of ground school and then 3 days of sim, and they overlap one sim day with some ground school. And so I, to be honest, I have not really cracked open the books. I know basically what I'm supposed to be studying. I believe that I operate every day like as if, I was in the simulator being evaluated. So I'm not too worried about the day-to-day stuff. It's the non-normals that I have to kind of brush off, the V1 cups, the call outs, the GPS approach call outs, so that I'm in there and not struggling, the ground school really is a non-event. You just show up and pay attention and you're golden. They review. I just did my first quarter distance learning, completed that like in a couple days. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to the training. But it's been kind of crazy on my end. We've had a long break from the Squawk Ident podcast for a while. That is what happens when life gets a little overwhelming. You have to make sure that you don't pile on too much stuff, especially as an aviator. What people don't realize is being a pilot is not just about flying airplanes. It's not just about going to the great locations and overnights and layovers and, meeting with people with like interests that are technical and intelligent and most of the times very articulate and can have a conversation with you and meeting people and traveling the world. It's also, having family responsibilities and everything else associated with it. And we are human, and I don't know if people have been listening to the show for a long time. Those that have been loyal listeners, thank you, first off. Secondly, you might know that there's a lot going on in this here aviator's life. Well, part of that is something that, unfortunately, I didn't think was ever going to happen to me, but it has happened, and it has been in the works now for years, many years. It's been close to 9 years where we've been kind of talking about this. It's been about 5 years since we've been doing something about it. And this last year has been the time where we've actually taken action on this. And that is, this aviator is getting divorced. So I apologize for not being on the show or not having more regularity with the show, but this is just something that we go through towards the end of the show. We're going to talk about what is commonly referred to in the airline industry as A.I.D.S, or Aviation Induced Divorce Syndrome. Why it happens. I'm not going to be airing dirty laundry. So for those of you listening to hear about dirty laundry, go ahead and listen. I might drop something, but I won't. But we're going to talk about, like, as a pilot, like, what is involved. Why is it that more pilots and police officers over every other career field out there, more pilots and police officers statistically end in divorce, their relationships, or at least one, sometimes multiple. I mean, it's a cliche, and everybody always likes to blame the pilot, especially the male pilot, and say, "Oh, well, he's just a woman." No. There was no infidelity in this scenario here, and most of the people I talked to over the last 2 decades on the I like to call it the flight deck sofa or the cockpit therapy session. You sit there and you talk about family, you talk about, projects, you talk about the kids, you talk about the grandkids sometimes, but we always talk about relationships somehow. And there's those that are pretty private that don't, but the ones that are vocal about it, you learn a lot from your fellow pilot. Maybe this pilot's 20 years or 30 years older than you and has gone through it. the cliche is, well, which wife are you on? Third, fourth, fifth, how much alimony are you paying? Are you working
Yeah.
just so you can pay alimony? I mean, so there's all these things, the cliches that people deal with. And unfortunately, I never thought that was going to happen to me. I'm a fixer. I tried to fix things, and I've been trying to fix things for a long time. And, this is just happened to be a very amicable decision. And we've kept it from so many people, including our own family. But yeah, the time has come, and it's happening. So again, I'm not going to air any dirty laundry or badmouth anyone. That's not my intent, or not the case either way. So, but that's why the long break. We've been in the hangar for a while I've been regrouping. I will be continuing to regroup, and some pretty heavy decisions have been made and are continuing to be made. So I do appreciate everyone's respect and support throughout this. For those of my friends that have been, reaching out and really making sure that everything is okay, thank you. Everything is okay. So that's what's been going on. But in the process of all that, of doing all these things, of taking care of all these appointments and transactions and conversations, I still have to fly a regular schedule. I still have all these responsibilities in my life. One of them was I went down to have a meet and greet with my cadets over in San Diego at Coast Academy. And I got to meet them face to face for the first time. We were doing FaceTime calls and Zoom meetings and things like that. But it was really nice. The school is a fantastic school, all brand new facility, just a wonderful program from what I was told. But there were a couple things. I went down there with my coworker, my friend, and my chief pilot. He's Captain Leroy was the captain that I flew with when we did that miracle flight, Make-A-Wish flight, back to JFK to Orlando. Was it last year or the year before? And so we've been in touch ever since and have had some conversations. Well, he's also the group leader for the Legacy Airlines Cadet Academy program. And so I report to him, and if I have questions, I go to him. And so we went down there together, and he got pizza for everybody. And we had these conversations. We basically answered questions to all the students that were there in attendance and in the program. And I said something that I wasn't planning on saying. I just, in the moment, we were talking about this and that. They had a bunch of questions about the airline industry. And I was looking over the window area, and it was on the second floor, and you can see the whole airport operation and people taking off and landing. And I said, guys and gals, if I can give you any advice from a pilot who's been doing this for some time, enjoy this moment. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your general aviation experience. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm looking over your shoulders out that window, and I have a very warm, positive feeling in my heart. How much I miss the GA world, how much I miss rotating a Cessna 172 and climbing out at VX and then transitioning to VY. And all these terms and all these things came flooding back just by being in the presence of this GA community. And I could see their eyes. They're all looking at me like, what? I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to be done. I just want to go to the regional. I just want to get a job. I want to be where you're at as soon as possible. And I could see that. I could hear it. And so I made these comments. I said, guys, enjoy it. This moment is going to be such a small, insignificant time over your course of your entire life's career span. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy this time. Go up. Do some backseat flying, even if you don't have to. Build the time. Enjoy the experiences that you're having. Enjoy the friendships that you're making. Enjoy the networking. And they looked at me when I said networking. I'm like, when you market yourself, when you make connections, exchange contact information, give people a business card. They're like, business card? I'm like, we just link up on Instagram or X or something. Like, no. I told them, go to Vistaprint pay the $30, make yourself up 200 cards, whatever it is, with a nice design, and start handing them to people. You walk into a flight school, give them your business card. You meet a pilot that's currently a charter pilot. You say, hey, call me sometime. Hand them your business card and say, hey, put this in your phone. And some people will just put it in their phone and give you back the card. Fine. And others will take it, put it in their pocket. They'll sit it in their desk, and then maybe down the road, they're going to go, oh, yeah, I remember this guy. Or some of them might just throw it away. Doesn't matter. Market yourself. Network. We've said it time and time and again on this show. You never know when the person you met 2 or 3 years ago is now your chief pilot. Oh, yeah, I remember you. Yeah. So, yeah, you don't necessarily have to do the business card thing, but just market yourself and enjoy this time. And really, like Captain Leroy looked at me and goes, "That's some great advice, Tony. That was really good." And so we all kind of like stopped and they're like, "Yeah, you're right. I should be enjoying this because I'm almost done here, or I'm halfway through the program and it feels like the blink of an eye." Yeah. So that was
Yeah, I think I'm sorry. I think the thing that people need to remember is, at the end of the day, what we're doing is a job, and it's the business side of aviation that we're a part of. Yes, we get to fly, we get to go to cool places. It's the business part of aviation, though. Our occupation is to safely transport people to wherever it is they need to go, and it. I hate to say it like this, but it lacks some of the romanticism of the GA flying. When you're out there, GA flying it's very pure, right?
yeah.
You're in a 172, you're cruising at 3,500 feet, just looking at things, right? You're not worried about, the 150 passengers you got in the back. You're not worried about medical emergencies or flight attendants or anything like that. You're out there, you're enjoying the view, you're enjoying the time, you're enjoying the experience. And I think that's key for people to remember, is that, just like you said, you've got to enjoy the experience along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I miss it. I do. I mean, just you talking about it got me fired up. I was like, man, I can't even remember. I mean, actually I can, but it took me a while just to remember when the last GA flight was for me, and it was actually 2017. But that one flight took me a little while to get back in the saddle because I hadn't flown an airplane. From that point, it was like 2005, so we're looking at 12 years prior to that.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of like riding a bike, but I mean, I still had a lot of,
A little
you
wobbly.
know, yeah, very wobbly, a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
I was flying the airplane in unfamiliar airspace. The airplane to me was unfamiliar because I haven't flown that exact airplane, in a while. Usually when you're in the GA environment, you're kind of flying the same airplanes over and over again. So this airplane was new to me. So, that was exciting, but man, it was so fun and so rewarding for me because, I didn't, it doesn't seem crazy to most people, but it's kind of an accomplishment when you go from flying, a big, heavy airplane around, and then you go back to the small single engine,
Mhm.
4-place environment, and you're coming in the land. And first of all, your approach speed is well below the stall speed of any airliner that you've been flying. So, you're freaking out a little bit because you're like, man, this plane's going too slow. We're going to stall out and crash right here a mile from the airport. And then as you're trying to get your sight picture back and you're transitioning into the flare probably 100 feet too high, you're starting to realize that, man, we're not even close to the runway yet. So, but a lot of those things are fun because, like, you remember we used to grease the landings in
Oh yeah.
on these airplanes. Oh, you had such command over those airplanes by the time you transition to airline world that, you felt like you could do anything with the airplane. And that was so much fun. That was such a comfortable position to be in, just, and then you said it too, Terry, like you didn't have to worry about the people behind you, or you didn't have to worry about, you know, uh, if I'm delayed, am I going to be misconnecting on my next run and the company is going to have to reschedule me, or your duty days, or your, what's the company ops on this, and what's, oh man, it's a different, world, I guess, for what we're doing from GA world, but and it's not bad. It's just it's not as simple as it used to be, and I think
You
that's what I
guys,
miss.
you guys remember at Tailwind we had the British Airways pilots who would come into Phoenix and
Yes,
they'd come out and rent the airplane and go fly.
yes, yeah, that was awesome.
They did it because they enjoyed it,
Yeah, I'm so funny you say that. That was one of the most memorable moments of my life when I got to do the checkout for two of those British Airways guys, and they were telling me, I remember it was pretty clear to me what their brief was. They were like, "Listen, just because I fly a 747 across the world doesn't mean I know what I'm doing." I'm like, he's like, "I don't know what any of this class Alpha, Bravo, Charlie airspace is that you guys do down here." And radio calls, he's like, honestly, when I go on my little trip, I'll be filing IFR because that's all I know,
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I get it. But then he's like, yeah, if you see me doing something over here that, doesn't look right, say something, because I don't know that I'm doing it wrong. I was like, wow, okay, cool. These guys are for real. But it was cool to see them just get back in the saddle and fly the airplane. They were loving it. I mean, they were so happy.
And you remember, I don't know if
Be
you
up there.
remember, Rob, because Robert and I would have these meetings with everyone in the morning. Oh, you were gone before. That's right. You were
I think
gone before I left.
yeah.
But Terry was there, I think, with the BA guys. And then we're like, look, we all just have to check them out. And they're going to fly to Tucson and around the valley and back. We have to do the checkout for the insurance purposes. They're all going to flare too high. They're all going to flare like 150 feet or 100 feet. Yep. And make sure you don't stall the airplane. Just keep your hand, be ready, because they're all going to. And I would tell them that you're going to want to flare too high. And when you think you should flare, I want you to say something like, oh shit, like 4 times, and then flare. And one guy laughed at me. He's like, oh, yeah, bugger, yeah. Fucking hilarious. So we get in the airplane and he's like, oh shit. I'm like, and he starts to flare. And I go, no, not yet. Give me one more shit. And I had my hand there on the yoke because he was, the sight picture is like way too. And, Rob, like you said, for me, it was the same experience. And thank you to Alex, our very own Alex, who was the first to offer me to go up in a GA aircraft when he was just a listener to the show and listening and sending in emails and giving feedback. And he invited me to go up. And so the time before was 2006. It was the last time I was in a GA airplane in 2006. And then here we were, I don't know what year that was, 2001 maybe, I think, 2001, 2002, no, 2001. So I go up with Alex and I told Alex, I'm like, look, man, I'm going to flare way too high because it's been how many years. And sure enough, I did. And I bounced it. But I did the go around, so we recovered. He laughed at me and, but yeah, it's, and thank you to Christy Schaefer as well, who formerly Christy Wong, who took me up in her Cherokee over in Denton, Texas.
Who's now Captain Wong now,
Captain.
I guess.
Well, Captain Schaefer. She's
Captain
remarried.
Schaefer, yes.
And
that's
yeah,
right.
just Christy's an amazing person, and she's got her life like going at full speed, especially with the In the Hangar podcast and YouTube channel and everything she does for Sandpiper. Yeah, fantastic couple, a fantastic person. So yeah, thank you to Christy as well for that. Well, earlier in the show, I discussed some very personal information that I have been going through, something that affects so many pilots. And we asked the question, why? Why is it that so many pilots are involved in some kind of divorce or separation from their partners. What is it? And it's not what most people think. Most people that are not in the aviation industry think that it's infidelity or just a separation of time. The fact of the matter is, even if you have the best family environment at home possible, being away, being on the road, being constantly jet lagged is a very lonely place. And you try to make up for it by, going and having a good meal somewhere, having a great conversation with your co-pilot or your captain or your crew, going and exploring a city or something. But then how does that make your partner feel? Are they at home going, "Hey, I'm tending to the kids and you're out there having a beer with your captain, meanwhile I'm here changing diapers? Must be nice." And then you come home, you're exhausted, you're jet lagged. And you're like, "Hey, just give me a couple hours. I got to take a nap and shower and get unpacked and get the laundry going." And then, when do they get a break? When does your partner get a break? Right? So many issues that every pilot out there has to deal with, on top of all the issues and stress from just the family environment. How are we going to pay the bills? Who's going to what soccer or volleyball event or pickleball, or what are we doing? How do you manage all that time and manage it well? Well, I've been going through this for quite some time. It's been close to a decade where the relationship has been we've both been trying to make it work. And finally, about a year ago, we decided to call it quits. So, things in my life, things in her life, suffered a little bit, but we tried to minimize the impact to our families, tried to minimize the impact to our child. So we've decided to make the very difficult and personal decision to split up, to get divorced. And that just is what happens. I'm very lucky that it's been very amicable. We haven't really been at each other's throats for things, but it is stress. It is stress that we have to manage, compartmentalize, because I still have to go to work every week. I still have to perform. I still have to have my mind on flying. Safety is the number one concern there. And if I'm not fully there because I'm dealing with all this stuff at home, that was going to be not fair to everyone involved. My co-pilot, my crew, my passengers, my operator, my boss. I mean, everyone involved. But it's a cliche, right? It's my fault, right? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just, like I said, I'm not going to air any dirty laundry. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about how to be aware that we're human. We're human, and we're just trying to get it right. I've done a lot of soul searching and a lot of work on myself over the past decade, and in the past few years, that has really come to a peak of like just soaking in all the information I can get. Well, I wanted to talk about this acronym, A.I.D.S, Airline Induced Divorce Syndrome. If it wasn't for the help and the support of my family and friends, I don't know if I would have been able to get through all this, and I'm continuing to go through it. There was a good article I found out there from Flight Level Training Solutions. And there's plenty of blogs and things, and I didn't want to really quote a blog on the show today, but I definitely am interested in this article. It was written by Kyle and Linda Reynolds. It was published back in May 10th of 2017. And she writes, "I am the wife of a pilot. I know what it's like to spend Christmas and other holidays without the one I love. I have experienced the challenges of managing a household and caring for children for weeks at a time without the presence of my spouse. I also work alongside my husband in our aviation training business. I have also worked alongside my husband in our aviation training business. I have seen a twinkle in the eye of many pilots as they recount the planes flown, the accidents averted, and the places they visited. I've also seen the twinkle fade as they mention the loss of their family due to the extended absences and sudden departures. I have sensed the joy and sorrow that aviation has produced in many lives. Aviation Induced Divorce Syndrome may be a tongue in cheek attempt to express this double edged sword. It's a means for expressing the love of flying, which diminishes other loves. It also is a means of expressing a set of symptoms from which people desire relief. While I am not able to offer complete relief, she writes, I should like to suggest a few solutions. I do believe one can love aviation and one's family simultaneously. It takes some work and some thought, but it can be done. Training is one of my passions. Aviation is another. Take a look at the solutions offered here and consider training yourself to become not only a better pilot, but also better equipped to care for the ones who matter the most.
All right, solutions to caring for your loved ones while you are away. Let us into your world. It can be almost a surreal experience to be in another country or state and then back home within a few hours. In fact, it can almost be described as a culture shock. Help our two worlds to meet once again. Tell us about your trip. What'd you see? Who were the passengers and what were they like? Show us on a map where you went and start instilling in us what wonder of the world and passion for travel that you have acquired. It can also be a means for helping you reacclimate yourself to our world. Take lots of pictures and videos. We can't see firsthand all that you do, but you can teach us and make us feel part of your life by sharing your adventures. After you have a chance to unwind, show us what you saw. Play a handmade video of the airport or the town in which you stayed. Make a commentary of the country or state that you visited. Take a picture of the plane and the cockpit. Explain your process for takeoff and descent so we understand the complexity of the job and can appreciate the skill it takes. The effort lets us know that you were thinking of us while you were there and that you want us to enjoy the adventure with you. Set up family procedures. Why not make up some SOPs for us while you're gone? Give us the structure we need to compensate for your absence. How can you delegate duties so that things run as smoothly as possible? Can you enlist the support of friends and family? Can you assign chores and responsibilities to the children? Be sure to follow up on assigned tasks when you return so that everyone is clear on the need to work together as a team and support mom and dad, who bears much of the responsibility when you are on a trip. Explain the complexity of decision making. Pilots make countless decisions every day. Many people tend to think that pilots just get in and go. Your family may think so too, if you don't share it with us. Show and explain your checklists. Read an accident report, ever mindful of what is appropriate for your children. Teach us how to read the radar and how you communicate with ATC. We will be much more understanding of the delays and challenges in schedules when we understand the rationale behind duty time, weather patterns, company policies, and the challenges you face each day.
Share your needs. Safety is of prime concern for pilots. It is important to be well rested and focused while flying. Ask us to refrain from texts and phone calls until you have landed so you can keep focused on the flight. Then, when you do respond, give us your undivided attention. Let us know ahead of time when you need to get to bed early so you're well rested for the next trip. Try to spend quality time with us the night before so we feel secure knowing that your early bedtime and departure is for work related reasons and not because you are disinterested or tired of being with us. Connect often. It's true, we lead separate lives while you are away. Call us and ask about our sporting events. Ask how the day went and how the children behaved. Ask for details. Really take interest. FaceTime us and show us your room and what you ate. Show us your colleagues and your rental car. The more details you pull out of us and the more you share, the more our lives become one again. Express gratitude. Often, a less than ideal situation can be softened by a few kind words. Let us know that you appreciate all of our hard work while you are away and the support given to your career. Tell us how proud you are of the help and the teamwork you see. Acknowledging the sacrifices made helps us to feel that we are a part of your success and is a good reminder for yourself as well. Hopefully, there are a few ideas here that will help to ensure that aviation induced divorce syndrome never touches you or your loved ones. Train yourself to implement several ideas and then watch to see how your family responds. Take the ones which are effective and make them a habit. It takes work, but you can enjoy aviation and keep your family. Hopefully, you can have a twinkle in your eye when you speak of both.
Again, this is a really nice article from Kyle and Linda Reynolds. I'll put a link in the show notes. This obviously is not the, prevent all of
Sure.
of what we're talking about, divorce syndrome. It's so much more complicated than this. But the little tips that were outlined here are helpful. And as my career took off and I found myself, especially on reserve, especially when I was commuting for 12, 13 years back and forth to Chicago, New York, to the West Coast, all that took time away from family. And when I came back, it was very difficult for me to get right into the swing of things. I can remember some of the complaints were, you're on your own schedule and, her bedtime is a certain time and, you got to get your daughter to bed and all you want to do is stay up with your kid and watch a movie and then what are you feeding her? And you're throwing it all off. And instead of having the skills I needed to communicate with my partner, with my wife, I was like, I'm gone all the time. And the least you can do is let me, hang out. And it's not that late, So we were butting heads from the beginning. And I just thought, hey, come on, I'm an Italian guy. Come on, forget about it, right? But truthfully, this was years and years and years of little things that turned into deal breakers, big things. I've done the work, as I mentioned earlier in the show. I've done some reading. I've watched countless seminars, countless podcasts and TED Talks, and you name it. Because I'm a fixer and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out where I went wrong. I tried to figure out where she went wrong, where we went wrong, and trying to figure out like how I don't repeat this cycle. I refuse to be one of those crotchety old captains who's praying to God that 67 gets approved, which it didn't. But let's just say, we all know these guys about out on the line. We've come across them over the years, and like all they're doing is working to pay alimony and to pay, I told a story this many times, and I'm going to tell it again just because it talks of the cliche that I mentioned earlier. It was the first time that I donned an airline uniform at Sandpiper, and it was a long weekend. It was a Thursday evening, and they said, okay, you all have your uniforms, you have your ability to set your travel passes, you've read the rules, go home. Go be with your families on this long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Go enjoy it and be back here Monday morning ready to go. So I put on my uniform because I'm going to non-rev. And I went to the airport with a duffel and I'm ready to go. And the flights were all full because there was weather in Dallas. Go figure. And I was on an MD-80. And the only thing available was going to be the jump seat. And I've never set foot in the cockpit of an MD-80 before. And sure enough, I went through the process. They handed me my what they call 1W card or jump seat card. I walked down to the flight deck. I introduced myself. I said, Captain, hello, my name is Tony. I am a pilot for Sandpiper. And here's my badge, and here's my license, here's my medical, and here's my 1W. Is it okay if I ride your jump seat today, sir? And he's, oh, welcome aboard. Yeah, come on in. Oh, new hire. This is amazing. I'm so happy to see that we're hiring again. I'm like, well, just, I'm not at Legacy. I'm at Sandpiper. He goes, that doesn't matter. You got wings on your shirt. You're one of us. If you ever need anything, you let us know. We're a small community. We help each other out. I just thought that was the coolest thing to hear on my very first experience riding in the cockpit. So I got in. I got all settled. The flight attendant said, Captain Secure, ready to close. He gives a thumbs up. Oh, let's get out of here. It was a late night flight from Dallas, Fort Worth to San Francisco, which is where I was living at the time. And once I learned how to put my feet in those little stirrups, dangle my feet on the jump seat that was hanging on the back of the door of an MD-80, I was looking around like, this is amazing. And, an MD-80 cockpit is not glass panel. It was all steam gauges and, like, oh, what's that EPR gauge for? all this stuff. I was like, all new experiences for me. And when we get up to altitude, level off, captain immediately turns around, turns on the dome light, and it's like, so, this is fantastic. Are you excited? What aircraft are you on? All this stuff. And he goes, can I give you some advice? And I was like, yes, sir. Absolutely. He's like, well, let me ask you this. Are you married? I was like, yes, sir. He goes, do you have any kids? I went, yes, sir. I have a 9-month-old at home. He's like, oh, forget it. I was like, no, wait, what were you going to say? He goes, well, I was going to tell you, whatever you do in this industry, don't get married, don't have kids. Find a woman you hate, buy her a house and walk away. You're better off. I was like, oh my God. And the FO was dying laughing. And he turns around and he goes, don't listen to him. He's a crotchety old man who was working through his 4th divorce. He's like, that's right. I had to sell my boat after the first one. I had to sell my airplane after the second one. After the third one, I had to sell my cabin in Aspen. And now this one wants the condo in Hawaii. God damn it, what's next? And I was like, wait, you want an airplane, a boat, a cabin, a condo? I'm like, holy crap, shit. So I thought that was one of the funniest things I ever heard. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen to me. I'm in it. I'm till death do us part. I'm happy. Just had a baby, But life happens, and your scenario, your situation, it changes. You grow. You're not the same person you were 10 minutes ago, let alone 10 years ago. If you're one of the very, very lucky few that happens to be with a significant other that also evolves, also changes, but you're on the same path, you're on the same wavelength, you have the right tools to communicate, you have the right desires that you had 20 years ago, you still have them, then you're like Rob, you're like happy family, happy life. And I'm not saying you're all sunshine and rainbows, Rob, and I'm not asking you to explain your secret. But I'm saying that there's some of us that have been together for a long time with their spouse, and it's not going anywhere. It's like, it's a rock solid foundation. And if you tell me that you've never had a fight, I'll say, bullshit, you're lying, because then you're not married. You're just, plugging along. And I had to learn so much that I just didn't know in the last few years. But I learned it too late. And I'm not the only one at fault here. There was, like I said, it's not an infidelity thing or it's not a what people think. It's just when two people grow apart and it becomes very uncomfortable. And when you're basically having a roommate for the last 10 years, it just, sometimes it's better to just split. But what I wanted to talk about today was, there are things that I wish I learned when I was in my 20s or even in my teens on how to be a better person, how to be a better communicator. There's a video that I watched, and I'll put a link in the show notes. It's about an hour-long podcast. And a well-accomplished author and divorce attorney talks about divorce and love, and does this marriage even work anymore? And there's so much to pull from that conversation that I just wish I had in my tool of tricks when I was in my 20s. That if you're a young aviator listening to this podcast and you think, oh, that's never going to happen to me. I know what I'm doing. I found a good one. Great. Fantastic. I'm not here to say anything negative to that at all. As a matter of fact, I think love is love. I'm a romantic, but if I can just get you to think about some of the tools out there that might help you not fall into the cliche of, yeah, I got the syndrome, the aviation induced divorce syndrome. If I can help one person out there work on their relationship so that they can still follow an aviation career and not be the statistic, that's all I want.
Well, I could say, you from my perspective, I've been married 23 years and it's not easy, you know, being an aviator. There's there's no set policy, procedure, checklist, um, SOP that you can follow to make it a success. It takes a lot of work. There's a lot of um, mutual understanding, which obviously I'm not talking about you and your situation, Tony. I'm just saying in general from my perspective,
Right.
from my life and everything. But we've definitely had our fair share of arguments, and some of it is just it's a compounded thing. It's a lot of stress, a lot of money, a lot of ideals of what you had in mind when you got married and your plans for your future, and things aren't going in that direction. um and then you've got sprinkled in other outside external forces with family members, and you know like Terry said, he was experiencing some deaths in families and just some dynamics totally changing, and then just the total evolution of the industry itself, just the way things are going. It's just so hard to do it. But the only thing that I can say that's been a pretty solid foundation in my marriage and my life is faith. Don't have to go too far into that, but
Yeah.
faith has always been there for us. um and we always come back to that, whenever we have to. Well, we come back to that pretty much every day, but whenever times get tough, you know I always say, whatever you're thinking about, Rob, whatever plans you have, whatever plans you have, um they're not the plans that are supposed to be. It's God's plan. So pray about it. Try not to pour any more gas onto whatever fire is burning,
Yeah.
if it is on fire, and try not to fan the flames if you're out of gas. Just let I don't know. I don't even know where to go from there, but
No, I know
we
exactly what you're saying, because
it's just
I have a friend, and you guys might know this individual, listeners out there, you know him too, Roger, Captain Roger, who I've
yeah.
known for a very long time. He was around for the birth of my daughter, who's now 18 and spunky and just out there, and thank God, relatively well adjusted. um, and Roger has known us and through it all, and he's been through his own personal journey. So he's been a great consigliere, to borrow a term. He's been a great counselor for me. He's been a great friend for me. And he calls to check up on me. When they moved out, he came and stayed with me for a week. He helped me
Wow.
paint walls at the house. He's been the sanity in the insane amount of stress that I have been enduring. And he said a few things to me that I'll never forget. He and a few others.
Mhm.
But he said, cooler heads will prevail. He said, no matter what you're going through, the emotion you're feeling, the blood pressure, all of it, he goes, cooler heads will prevail. He goes, you guys, I've known you both since you have been married. And he's, been very careful. Also a man of faith. He's been very careful to not pick a side and not, basically put fuel to the fire, as you said. He's been very careful. He's gone through his journey and he's gone through his experiences, and he takes that knowledge and he was sharing it with me and giving me advice to this very day. He's still giving me advice, and he's been a tremendous help. He also said, you never really know someone, your partner, your family, your siblings. You never really know someone until you or they are going through a divorce. He said, and that's when you see when the other person feels backed up against the wall and pigeonholed into a corner. That's when you see their true thoughts, their true idea, their true identity, their true character. He said, don't allow that to sway your character. You have to take care of yourself first, regardless of what your spouse might tell you or your family might tell you. You have to don your oxygen mask on first before you help others. That's so selfish. Why? How can you say that? Like, that is like that for a reason. That's God's plan. Take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Be kind. Be kind when you argue. I'm going to put a link in the show notes of this YouTube video. I was looking at it earlier. And it's about an hour-long video. It's a podcast. And this divorce attorney talks about how you really have to make sure you communicate and have the difficult decisions and the difficult conversations before you get married, before you get committed to a pathway or a journey with someone. He talks about how the institution of marriage, it used to be back in the day about land. It was a business transaction.
Yeah.
I'll give you 5 cows to marry my daughter and you're going to have half the land and whatever. It was a business. Love. What's love? Right? That's a modern concept. That was a religious concept. When it comes down to it, we're all animals. Right? And it just depends on social and government. It's a transaction. Right? So not that I'm saying I'm against it. I'm just saying have those difficult conversations. Learn, okay, when we get in an argument, do you need time to process? Or do you not want to go to bed angry and we're going to settle it right then and there, even if it's happening right at bedtime? Have those conversations before you're in a fight. You don't want to learn how to fight when you're in a fight. You want to learn how to fight when everyone's calm and you can have a rational conversation. Are you going to talk about prenuptial agreements at the day of the wedding? Are you going to talk about postnuptials? Are you going to talk about, okay, if we get divorced, like, hey, I love you, I want to be with you forever, but if it doesn't work out, how are we going to do this? Right? No, nobody talks about that, right?
Yeah.
That's what the lawyers, those sharks, that's what they do, right? But you hire a lawyer when it's too late. It's you're over, you're done. And it's like the mentality. And I think more pilots need to be aware of this and kind of say, okay, like this article was, talk about, come home, share your experience with your family, FaceTime them. Hey, this is the hotel. Hey, kids. And don't get me wrong. I fly with a bunch of FOs that they're got babies at home and like they're in the flight deck and their pre-flight's done, or we have a little bit of time while they're still boarding. And here goes FaceTime. Hi, honey. Oh, take a look. Daddy's at work. You want to see the cockpit? Look at the lights. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go. I'll FaceTime you when I land in Detroit, whatever. And so I was the same way, but we're all that way at the beginning. And then they slow down, you get busy, you got more stress involved, and that's when things start to fall apart. So have those difficult conversations at the beginning when you're calm. talk about, okay, and then if you're with a partner and you're gone all the time and they're at home with the kids and they've voiced to you that, God, you get to go out and have a beer with your co-pilot and meanwhile I'm here changing diapers. Well, you got to start to listen. You got to start to listen to your partner, because so you send them a text message randomly. Can't talk right now, about to take off. Just want to let you know I'm thinking of you. You know, do you remember the first time we flew together? I was thinking about that. Wow. They think, ah, okay, it's not so bad. He's gone all the time, or she's gone all the time, but it's not so bad because I'm still on her mind. I'm still on his mind, whatever. So I wish I was more well versed and I can spread more advice. And that's not my job here. I'm doing a podcast about the journey of today's aviator and what they can expect in the marketplace. This does have some merit. This conversation has some merit.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you guys both for allowing me to talk about this, and being there for me, being supportive, and and Terry. I also want to talk to you about your relationship. It's been difficult, I think, more so for you than most, because not only are you dealing with an aviation career that has been very successful and fruitful for you, but you also dealt with a military aviation career. We're talking about deployments. We're talking about, medical issues overseas, and, so many unknowns. And, your wife has been, since I've known you, which I've known you about the same length of time as I've known Roger, um, you guys have seemed like very strong foundation. I mean, she's a professional nurse, right? So she's knows about shifts and fatigue and all that stuff and being away and being a military spouse. She gets it. But what's your secret? Do you have any advice out there for maybe some young aviators that are in your boat?
Um, I think we 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 or I, maybe we made the conscious decision. I did 24 years in the Army, um, and there that time I was pretty focused on my career, and the family a lot of times took a sideline. You know, they I ended up um, I ended up making or having pretty good success at my military career. Thankfully, not at the cost of my family. But when I retired from the Army, it was pretty much a conscious decision between my wife and I that I'm retired now. This is an airline job. Yes, there are important things that I need to focus on for the airline career, but family is first. Family will always be first. Um, and I think I've done a okay job at managing that over the last year and a half since I've been retired. It's kind of one of the reasons why I bid to the 7576 fleet, because the trips are 3 days. They're short trips, and really like tonight, for example, it's I'll leave the house at probably 8 p.m. and I'll be back by 3 p.m. on Friday. So I'm not gone for a long time, and then I'm off. And when I'm off, and I can focus on the family. Unlike my military career, where I'm off, but I still got work to do. Still got stuff on my mind about work and what we're going to do next week, and a training exercise coming up, or I got soldiers in jail, or whatever the case may be. It's not like that here. So I've been able to focus, prioritize the family, and so far in the last year and a half, that's worked out pretty well. We're my wife and I, we are coming up on our 19th anniversary on Monday. So,
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
Congrats.
Yeah, so we I don't know. There's a lot of little things I would say that help. I try to do that, taking pictures, and sending them when I'm over there, and kind of including my wife at least in the things that I'm doing while I'm on those trips, and getting to see these cool places that they don't get to go to right now. Um, and then let's see, I every flight. I've missed a few here and there. Sometimes you get busy before departure, or you get rushed because something breaks, and then they get it fixed, and you're trying to push off the gate and get going. Sometimes, once in a while, I will miss, but I would say 99% of the time before push, send my wife a text. Uh, hey, babe, about to push. Love you. Talk to you soon.
Nice.
Every flight. What else? My kids. Every time I go to a new city, I bring them back a little snow globe from
Oh,
that city, just so they
Nice.
can see, where I've been. And if they ask me where I'm going and I've been there, I can pull out the snow globe and, so I'm going back here. Oh, okay. Isn't that where you got that really, really good chocolate? Can you bring me some chocolate? Just including them. And my kids are 7 and 10. So, they're not, the 10-year-old's starting to understand a little more about, what I do, and the complexity of it. But the 7-year-old is. Well, daddy's gone. So try to include her, however I can. Pictures, chocolate. Chocolate's always a good bribe, right? Um,
Definitely.
but I mean, just little things. So that's I don't know. I don't have any profound words of wisdom, but uh,
I
do the
like the
little
snow
things. The
globe
little things
thing.
matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me.
Yeah,
One
we
thing I did with my daughter, and snow globe thing had it come flooding back when my daughter was young. Daddy was gone. He had to commute and to Chicago, and so he was gone for 4 or 5 days at a time. And even though I was a commuter that didn't need a crash pad for a while when I was an FO, senior FO, I had commutable trips, but I was still gone for 4 days at a time. And so I got this idea, and I don't know where it came from, but to send a postcard once a week. So once a week, I wasn't anywhere exciting. So once a week, I'd send a postcard. I'd, go to the airport in Cedar Rapids. Hold on a second. I got to run into the store and grab a postcard. And I always had postcard stamps in my bag, and I would mail them from the hotel. I just leave it at the front desk. And the postcards weren't from me. She was young. So the postcards were from Pete the pilot, who, and I tried to do as much like Dr. Seuss-ish iambic pentameter type rhyming as much as I could. But I'd said, yeah, I met your dad. He's a pilot, and I'm a cargo pilot, and I transport zoo animals around the world. And I fly a beach, whatever. And so, I would send these postcards, and Daddy, a mail came for me. Really? From Pete the pilot? Oh, I met him. He's a nice guy. He wanted to be your pen pal. Is that okay? She's like, yeah, Dad. And then like a month would go by, and I'd get busy and whatever, and I hadn't sent a postcard in a while. And she'd go, Daddy, I haven't heard from Pete the pilot. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna text him and see if he's okay. And the following week I'd, be on a trip, and I'd send her, and I probably amassed a good close to 100 postcards over a couple of years. And then finally she's like, Dad, I know it's you. I can see your handwriting. But it was a little gesture
Yeah.
that really went a long way, at least with her.
Yeah.
What I had not realized that there were different types of gestures that I should have been making, that I probably could have made a better effort at. So yeah, those little
Yeah.
things, especially with kids, they really
Yeah.
do matter.
I
Yeah.
did rocks. I would pick up a rock from one of my many runs in my younger days from whatever city I was in, and then bring it home, and hey, Daddy was in Fort Wayne. Yeah, let's look at where that is on the map. Oh, it's in Indiana. Cool. All right. What color you want to paint it? So we paint it, and then we put the airport code on it, FWA. So they kind of learn the airport codes
That's
that way
cool.
too. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that was one of my things.
And we're going to wrap up the show today with talking about all this that we, thank you for sharing your experiences with me, gentlemen. I really do
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners do too. But we're going to talk about fit for duty. And we're going to close it off with this. When you sign fit for duty at an airline, you have to sign every flight plan fit for duty, the FAA requirement. And you're attesting on a legal document, you're signing it electronically with your password, whatever, that you are fit to fly. Oh, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm well rested? Mm-hmm. Does that mean I am free from any kind of effects from any kind of drugs or alcohol? Yeah. Does that mean that I am healthy enough that as per the requirements of my first class medical, I haven't taken anything or I'm not suffering from anything that wasn't previously reported or that has come up since my last medical? Yeah, that's what it means. Does it also mean that mentally and physically I am prepared to perform the job function as is required by law? Yes. And the stigma of pilots are robots and we can compartmentalize and we don't bring it to work with us. Okay, that's bullshit. We do. We're human.
We're definitely human.
We've all flown with that guy or gal. That is just a monster. They're just a monster. And at first I thought, oh, did you fly with that asshole? He's on everybody's do not pair list. Oh my God, that guy's a turn. And as I was doing the work on myself, I started to realize that maybe something else was going on. And maybe I just had to listen. There was a book I've read multiple times. I have like 3 copies of it. I recommend it to almost every single person when we have this kind of conversation on the flight deck on our cockpit therapy sessions. I've always recommended the same book. It's called Crucial Conversations. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. You can get it used, paperback, whatever. Crucial Conversations. And it's not just about relationships. It's about how to have a conversation when the stakes are high, how to recognize it, body language, words used, meaning. What does it mean when your significant other or your spouse says something to you? What are they baiting you into a fight? What are they really trying to convey to you? That book helped me last as long as I did in my relationship. And now that I have this knowledge, I try to practice it every day, not just with my interpersonal skills with my family, but also on the flight line. When I'm talking to a boss, when I'm talking to the FAA, I use it. Remove the emotion. Stop telling yourself the micro stories you're telling yourself to try to relate to what the other person is saying and actually listen. Robin Williams had a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said, be kind to each other because you never truly know the battles the other person is going through. You never truly know the difficulties that they are dealing with their life. So if you're nothing else, just be kind. I finish every show since episode 1 with be kind because of that. And you never really know what the other person is doing unless they lose it on you. And it happens. And every once in a while, we see this on the news. Don't be that pilot. Ask for help. Call your friends. Call your union. Call someone and say, I'm not fit to fly because this is happening. Don't be on the YouTube or the X. Don't be this one.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, get off the airplane.
This is your captain speaking, but never like this.
I'll stop, and we'll fly the airplane. Don't worry, I'm going to let my co-pilot fly it. He's a man. Okay?
It's a total meltdown. The pilot boarded in her street clothes and addressed the passengers over the intercom. Passenger Pam O'Neill couldn't believe what was happening.
She said, let's take a vote. How many of you would like to take off now with me dressed as I am, or would you prefer that I take 10 minutes to get changed into my cute little uniform? Then she started talking about her divorce and political candidates. And the minute she mentioned that, a gentleman stood up and just yelled, whoa, enough, you're scaring me.
Another passenger, Randy Reese, got up to leave and gave a running commentary on social media. I'm shaking right now. The captain demonstrated that she was not mentally in a safe space. She says, sorry, I'm going through a divorce. Uh-oh. The pilot also insulted a mixed-race couple on board.
Did I offend you? Okay, so did I purposely offend you? I did. The answer is yes.
The more she tried to convince everyone she was okay to fly, the more people got off.
Flight attendants, please disarm doors.
Anthony Roman is a retired pilot.
Everything went wrong on the flight. The captain clearly was in an emotional state and was having a breakdown. The right thing to do, you don't feel safe on an aircraft, is to take matters into your own hand and get up and leave that aircraft.
After 20 passengers insisted on getting off the United Airlines flight, the pilot quietly left the aircraft.
Okay, if you don't feel safe, get off the airplane.
The United Airlines flight from Austin to San Francisco was delayed about 2 hours until another pilot took over. As for the original pilot you saw there, the airline says she has been removed from her duties pending an investigation.
Man, I'd be like, hey, Chief, you might want to make your way to gate Alpha 11. Yeah, we've got one of our people going off the deep end.
You know,
that's sad, though. It's sad it gets to that point.
It is. And I
can't help it.
Like I said, you can't sit there and really criticize.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, you have no idea what is going on in their life, and you have situations like this that do happen. They happen all the time, not every day, but they happen all the time.
Yeah, they reach the breaking point.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, it's important that we as aviators, evaluate our fitness for duty before every fight, before every time you get in the cockpit. And if you got a problem, and you're like, you know what, I just had a big argument. I can't think about flying, right? I can't. So you don't have to say anything to anyone. Just get up and walk off the airplane, go into the terminal, call your chief pilot. Done. Yeah. No one will fault you.
I'm thankful that happened down there, and unfortunately it was in front of all the passengers, but imagine that happening at 37,000 feet.
Yeah, and it has.
Who knows what had happened?
You remember when they had a deadheading pilot come into the flight deck, and they convinced the captain to do a bathroom break, and as soon as the deadheading pilot went into the flight deck, they did a lockdown procedure, and the captain had a breakdown and started making PAs. It did the same thing, but it was in flight. And so, don't throw away your career because you're, don't do it. I mean, there's still chance. We're human. And there's union
and there's programs and help for that stuff too. That's the big thing. A lot of people seem to lose sight of that because they're just so consumed with what's going on. They forget that there's help, or that there's people that want to help. Some people are actually probably embarrassed or ashamed to even ask for help, which is understandable, but that's what it's for,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, do you have anything else before we wrap it up?
No, sir.
Okay.
Just been getting pounded by thunderstorms and hail. I don't know if you heard it over the microphone here. Oh, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw the radar you sent me.
Cats and dogs coming down with some hailstones.
You know where that saying comes from?
No.
So back in the day when they had straw roofs, and they had the farms and stuff, all the domesticated animals they'd bring into the home. And they would go up into the rafters, and they would sit up there in the rafters when it was raining because, there's a dirt floor, and, they got straw beds and the ropes that hold the straw and hay on the bed. And that's why, sleep tight ropes. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Okay. So when it's raining cats and dogs, it's raining so bad that the cats and the dogs are, falling out of the
falling off
rafters,
the rafters
from inside the barn or the house. And so it's raining cats and dogs. Yeah. I love that kind of shit. You know about
That's good.
Piss poor?
No.
Okay, so when you're out, at Oklahoma in the middle of the Great Expansion, you're out there, and they settle in these little towns, and they have whatever your skill set is. That's what you would do. If you're a barber, you're a barber. If you're a saloon owner, you're a barkeeper. You're whatever you were. You were a priest. Everyone had a skill. Well, they had a lot of fur trappers. They had a lot of what do you call it, carpenters and things like that. But if you didn't have a skill, what are you going to do to support your family? Well, the fur trappers would need to cure the hide so the fur doesn't fall out. And they used urine to do that. So if you were so poor, the only thing you could do is piss in a pot and sell it to the fur trappers. But you really knew you were poor if you didn't even have a pot to piss in.
Damn, that makes sense. Wow. Or how about the word?
That, ladies and gentlemen, is your linguistic lesson for the day.
There you go. The end of the show. I was going to say, how about the term buck? $1, $2. You mentioned the trading posts. Well, that they used to use like deer as monetary value. Oh. I'll give you $1. I'll give you, $1 as, payment for,
nice.
This.
I didn't know that.
So that's where the term came from, I believe.
Yeah. All these sayings.
Yep.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these aviators. I want to say thank you to Rob and to Terry for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your insight and your personal beliefs on how you keep it all going, moving together with the family, with the relationships. I really do believe that we've at least got people thinking, and maybe we helped someone today. So help us out by sharing this podcast online and with your friends. It truly makes a huge difference. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Squawk Ident Podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. YouTube is got a thing going on now. The Google Podcast isn't a thing anymore. Now it's a YouTube podcast. We're on there now. So if you're a YouTube listener, you can listen to the whole podcast on YouTube now. So a YouTube podcast, that's pretty cool. We also love receiving your listener feedback. Just send us an email or audio feedback. Just record something on your phone, pop it into an email, and send it over to us. You can find that information on our website at www.aviatortony.com. That's Alpha Victor, the number 8, Romeo, Tango, Oscar, November, Yankee.com. There you'll find audio archives from past shows, photos from the flight line, guest book photo tab, and a Squawk Ident pilot shop where you can find an assortment of t-shirts and mugs and much, much more. A small proceed from all sales goes towards helping to finance this podcast. You can also contribute financially on your own right there on our homepage. Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram users can also find us under Squawk Ident Podcast. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to listen to these grateful aviators. Keep the dirty side down out there. Be safe and take care of each other. Bye, y'all.
We'll see ya. Hey.
Let me hit the button here.
That's the most annoying send-off from guys on the radio when it goes.
I know. It's
like,
there are captains out there. I flew with this one FO. She's like, yeah, my dad's a captain on the 737 out of Dallas, and I'm on Airbus, and he's got to come to LA and be an Airbus captain so we can fly together before he retires. I'm like, that's great. She's like, yeah, he hates flying with these new hires. And I'll be, he comes home and he tells me about it.
Yeah, or the ones that go, you talk to them normally, they get on the radio and then they go.
Say again?
Exactly. Or it sounds like they're in the back of the cabin.
United 10 is over here at flight level 250.
Yeah, that's because they're not using the right microphone.
So I think a lot of our ship set headsets are the Minitels. Yeah, little earpiece, tiny boom. And notice that those are the ones that sound like ass.
Yeah, that's when they're talking like this.
It sounds like they're out here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the mic is like right here next to their mouth. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Here I am with my, Bose Pro Flights.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Terry. I'm your first officer.
Yep.
Meanwhile, your captain's like, hey guys, so tonight's flight's gonna be a really good one.
It's ridiculous.
All right.
flew in the war, but a long time ago. I wouldn't know anything about it.
Do you know anything about planes? Do you know anything about planes?
Can you fly this airplane and land it?
No, not a chance. No, not a chance. No, not a chance.
Roger. Huh? Roger. Huh? Request vector. Over. What?
Do you know anything about planes?
Clearance, Clarence. Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Best of the best. We'll make you better. We'll make you better.
Do you know anything about planes?
Oh, jeez. Oh, you kill me. You really do.
Do you know anything about planes?
Captain, how soon can you land? I can't tell. You can tell me, I'm a doctor. No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Do you know anything about planes?
Can you fly this plane and land it?
It's an entirely different kind of flying.